Okay, these are your guided notes for section 4.3. It's 3:48 p.m. and this has taken me the entire day to get to this moment recording this video. I've had tons of technical difficulties. It's just been really hard. So I hope everyone watches my video and makes my efforts worth the trouble. Let's look at this 4.3. It's in your book. It's in Hawks. So the book is a really good place for some extra examples and just a little extra explanation. 4.3 deals with proportions and percents. To convert a proportion to a percent, you're going to divide and multiply by 100. Now, don't let this word right here, we've studied proportions, but another way to think of this is just a fraction, okay? So if you have a fraction, ignore my handwriting. If you have a fraction, it can be converted to a percent, okay? And how do you do that? You divide and then you multiply by 100. So for example, let's look at an easy one. 7 out of 12 students completed their Hawks homework, okay? Write that as a proportion, 7 out of 12, okay? That is reduced, so there's nothing we can do there. If you want to convert this, again, this is a fraction right here. 7 out of 12 is a fraction. Could also be written as a ratio. Remember, we did that last week. It could be written as 7 to 12, okay? But for these purposes of converting to a percent, we want it as a fraction. You're going to put that in your calculator, 7 divided by 12, and then multiply by 100. This is the final answer for this particular problem. Now, I want to talk about rounding right here. This is rounded to the nearest 100th. I'm going to write that down. This is rounded to the 100th place. Now, you have to read Hawks very carefully. 100th means 2 decimal places. So what you would do is go to the second decimal place and actually look after that, okay? This is a repeating decimal, so it just stays at 333. But rounding is important, particularly on Hawks. While I'm here, remember, you need a calculator, okay? This is the one I prefer. I've showed you this multiple times. TI30, where's the TI30X. But go ahead and get your calculator because we'll be having a test and you have to have a calculator. Okay, there are 2% formulas that we're going to work with in this class. You can kind of pick which one works best for you. The first one is over of equals percent over 100. That one's really common. You may have learned that in middle school. This one is something that I learned just a few years ago, and I really like it, particularly for word problems. It's part over whole equals percent over 100. Now, notice that both of these formulas have the percent over 100. Why is that? Because by definition, percent means out of 100. It doesn't mean out of 10, doesn't mean out of 50, doesn't mean out of 75. The definition of percent means it's out of 100. So whichever formula you use, the words are just a little bit different, but the meaning is the same. But the percent is always going to be out of 100. So percent out of 100, percent out of 100. Doesn't matter which formula you choose to use. Okay. Again, this formula, okay, I like this formula right here a lot. It lends itself really well to word problems. Let's look at a couple of examples. This is just a really straightforward. I'm going to leave the formulas up while we're here. What is 35% of 1,500? Okay, here are your key words. I've got the word is, I've got the word of, and I've got a percent. So basically, all I have to do is plug those three sort of words into the formula. This formula is going to work nicely here because it says is, it says of, and it also has a percent. And 100 is given to me, so I don't have to do anything there. Okay, let's read it again. What is? We don't know. We don't know what it is. So we're going to put an X there. 35%. That automatically goes over 100. Your percent always goes over 100. Of 1,500. This is your of word, so it goes in your of spot. This is your of word, so it goes in the of spot. This is your is, which we do not know, so it goes in your is spot. This is your percent, and this is 100. Now, from here, you're going to cross multiply and divide. We did that last week. So x times 100 is 100x. 1,500 times 35 is 52,500. Again, you need a calculator. If you are depending on your cell phone, it's week 2 or 3 I'm making this video. If you're still, week 3, if you're still depending on your cell phone, I'm concerned. Because we're going to be having a test in the next few weeks, and you cannot use a cell phone, on the test. You have to have a handheld calculator. Moving on, the answer there is 525. You didn't have to round on that particular problem. The last example we're going to do today is an actual word problem. The junior class at Skyline High School has 432 students. This is 24% of the total student body. How many students attend Skyline High School? Okay, I like the other word problem formula for this, the part over whole. This is my preference. Why? Because we're talking about part of the students at Skyline High School. What part are we talking about? We're talking about the junior part. That's part of the student body. And we're also talking about the whole student body. This word right here, total, is another word for whole. So the formula, part over whole equals percent over 100, is really good for this particular word problem. All I have to do is plug in. What is the part? Well, 432 is the part. So I plug 432 into the part position. 24 is my percent, so I put that in my percent, and it always goes over 100. Percentage is always out of 100. And then I don't know the whole. That's what I'm trying to figure out. The whole number of students at Scotland High School. So since I don't know that, I put an X down there. Again, we did this last week. This is the proportion where you cross multiply and divide. The answer ends up being 1,800 total students. Now, watch your rounding here. We don't have to round with this particular problem. But if you think about it, you can't have a fraction of a student. You either have like 2 students or 3 students, not 2.7 students. So watch your rounding with these word problems. Read the problem and see what would make sense for that particular problem. Money, for example, is always rounded to 2 decimal places. I think I'll write that down. Money is always rounded. I can't write as fast as I can talk. To 2 decimal places. Now, why is that? I didn't just make that up, okay? Because in America, we round our money to 2 decimal places, like $36.49, okay? $18.22. In America, we round money to 2 decimal places. So if it is a word problem and it's dealing with money, doesn't matter if it tells you how to round. You automatically know for money to round 2 decimal places, okay? All right, I will see you with our part. Well, this is the only notes for this week. Next week, we'll do section 4.4, and that will end chapter 4.